Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallim. Ta'allumu wa ta'alim, tadhakkura wa tazkir wa nafa' wa intifa' wal ifada wal istifada wal hath ala tamassuki bi kitabillahi wa sunnati rasulih sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam wa du'a ila al-huda wa dalala ala al-khair ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقرب ثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم نسألك العلم لدني والمشرب السوفي الهني وهب يغني. اللهم نسألك العلم لدني والمشرب السوفي الهني وهب يغني. اللهم نسألك العلم لدني والمشرب السوفي الهني وهب يغني. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين. Right, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, all praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has allowed us to gather here today. Alhamdulillah. Right, so whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gathers a group of people, no matter how small they are, how large they are, right, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at, right, are the hearts of these people. Right, they have come, right, for one purpose, and that is they are seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and nothing else, right? And only then will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, bless the gathering, right? And the angels will come and they will envelop the gathering, as we know in the hadith, right, where the angels will come and they will that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has angels that scour the earth, right? And these angels only have one job, right? And that one job is to look for gatherings, right, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name is being mentioned, right? No matter how large, no matter how small, right, there's their one job, it is to look for gatherings, right? And when any one of them finds these gatherings, right, they will call their friends, right, the angel friends, right? And they will begin to come and they begin to fold over each other, right, enveloping the entire gathering, right, in a column of angels, right, all the way up to the heavens, and then they will have their discourse with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, whereby they will begin first to seek forgiveness for those people who are in the gathering, right, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask the angels, right, oh angels, what are these people asking for, right, or what are they seeking protection from, right, and they say that, oh, they are seeking protection from the hellfire, oh Lord, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, right, have they ever seen the hellfire? And of course Allah knows best. Right, and the angels will say, no, they've never seen the hellfire. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, and what will be, or how will it be if they have seen the hellfire? Right, and the angels say, oh Lord, if they have seen the hellfire, they will be more fervent, right, more strong in seeking protection, right, from the hellfire. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks, right, what are they asking for? Right, and then they are asking for your paradise, oh my Lord. And the discourse goes the same thing again. Allah will say, have they seen my paradise? Right, and they will say, yeah, Lord, they've never seen your paradise. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, how will it be if they have seen my paradise? And the angels will say, they'll be even more fervent in asking for your paradise. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the angels, I bear witness, O angels, that I have forgiven them. Which is why the ulama, and then the angels also say that there are amongst them who were there not for the class. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, they are a people, I do not separate between them. I mean, no matter why they came. Right, so even those that came and slept through, or those that came for a reason, just pass someone something and to go off, right, they are part of the gathering. Right, and they have come, right, to exalt the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is what it's all about. Right, all of these classes, right, the books that we go through, right, all of it, right, has to go back down, right, to calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, to connecting our hearts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we don't get ourselves connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we have missed the point. We have basically missed the point of all these gatherings. We've missed it. Right, sometimes we're so caught up, with the text. Sometimes, it could even be that way, right? Or caught up, with the location, and caught up, that we miss the entire whole point, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which is why in the hadith, the popular hadith by Rasulullah Sayyidina Ali, oh Ali, right, even if you guide one of them, just one, right, even if you guide one of them, it is better than the entire world and all that's in it. Just one. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, it's just one. Even if you move one step closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one step, it is worth, right, the entire world's worth, right, of valuables. It is worth it. Right? Every step towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no price on it. You cannot, you will pay whatever it is. And on the day of judgment, you would, and there will be, and there are narrations, they will say on the day of judgment, right, there will be people in paradise who will be regretting. You're in paradise and you're regretting. Right? Why? Because they see their friend who did, one more subhanallah, one more alhamdulillah, one more Allahu Akbar. Right? The friend who went for one more class, went for one more, who fasted one more day, just one more from Allah subhanahu, in the way of Allah subhanahu. There's one more. And they will see that their companion will go way up there in paradise, way, way ahead of them. Right? And they will like, if only I did one more. If only I pushed myself for one more. If only. Right, so subhanallah, we can never underestimate, right, these gatherings for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever is done for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is never small. Right? And whatever is done, right, for the sake of the self, right, no matter how large it is, right, if it's done for the sake of the self, right, then it's despicable in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means for the sake of self, meaning to show off the self, right, to exalt the self, right, to raise the self, right? It is despicable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep our hearts sincere, right, for His sake. And that's what one of the scholars say, right, that that they have striven, right, for 20 years, right, trying to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they've never found something more valuable and more difficult than sincerity. More valuable and more difficult than sincerity towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For 20 years, and they went through all kinds of things, right, to keep your intentions pure for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The book that we are about to begin, right, is a great book. It's a very thin book. Right, this is the Arabic. Right, the Arabic is very thin. It's one of Imam al-Haddad's collections. Right, and Imam al-Haddad, who was known to be a great scholar, right, who lived just very not very long ago, right. So if you have the English text, I think she's sent out the English text, right. Here, the English text, you are highly encouraged to read through, right, his his biography, a short biography of the great Imam, right, because it is important to know a little bit about the one who is writing this text, because he is our teacher right now. I am not your teacher. Right? All I am doing is that I'm relaying what I have learned. Right, but the one who is really our teacher, right, is the one who wrote this book, right, which is Imam al-Haddad. Right, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on him. Right, he is from Hadramaut. Right, so you see, it's in the beginning. If you have this book, the PDF, it's in the PDF. Yeah, so it's right in the beginning. There's a biography there. Right, so I'm not going to go through the entire biography. I'm going to mention a few things about Imam al-Haddad, right, for us to begin to walk into to go through his book. We must know these certain things about Imam al-Haddad and who we are taking from. It is important for us to know the teacher, right, that we are taking from, right, because you need to know, because he's going to bring us on this path, right, towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, this book is called Adab Suluk al-Murid, right, Adab Suluk al-Murid, right, which means it is the etiquette, right, of traversing, right, of the one who is desirous of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? It is the adab, right? It is the etiquette. And what is the etiquette of us getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And the only people who can show us this way, right, of course at the head of them, of all of them, is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is the head, of all those who have reached Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the highest and the most greatest and the most exalted. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of course, without argumentation from anybody. Right? Nobody can argue otherwise. Even the head of the angels, even the head of everyone, every single one of the creation, the one right on top is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we say that with honor and esteem, right, for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? The scholars that come thereafter, right, and it's from the hadith about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the scholars of my ummah, they are like the prophets of Bani Israel. Right, the scholars of this ummah is a hadith. Right, the scholars of this ummah are like the prophets of Bani Israel. Right, what does this mean? Right, the scholars of this ummah, what does he say? The scholars of this ummah are like the prophets of Bani Israel. Right, Bani Israel, right, and this is what Imam Ahmad also explains in his book Da'wat Tamma, right, the complete call, right, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says that, right, Nabi Musa alayhi salam came with law, the Torah, right, came with law. Thereafter, every prophet that comes, right? Their role is to renew, right, or to revive, not renew, but revive, and what Nabi Musa brought. So Nabi Musa brought the Torah. What happens? After a few years after the death of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, people begin to forget the laws. They become neglectful of the laws, right? They become complacent, right, about the laws, right? And then you have this, then Allah says another prophet, right, to revive, right, what was lost and what was changed by the people. They changed the book, right? What was changed, this prophet will revive it. Then this prophet, when it was revived, the prophet passes away. Then it goes back to what it was. People begin to change the book again. They begin to forget stuff, remove stuff, eliminate stuff, and then a new prophet is sent to revive it again. And this continued until Nabi Isa alayhi salam, and Nabi Isa came with a new Sharia, right, that was in the Injil, right? And after Nabi Isa comes Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So the scholars after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so after Rasulullah there is no more prophets, right? So what the scholars do is that after the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, the religion will begin to be lost again. People will change. They can't change the Quran, right? But they will forget laws, and they get complacent. They get lax. They get become lazy. They get very obsessed with the dunya, right? So things happen, right, to human beings, and they go further and further and further away from what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught. Right? So every 100 years in the hadith, right, is a sound hadith from Rasulullah. Every 100 years, right, there will be someone, right, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send, right, to revive this, right, this religion. Right? In the past, it used to be one person when the ummah was small, but now they say there will be a group of people, and they are called the scholars, right, the true scholars, ar-rasikhina bil-ilm, right, the true scholars who hold on, right, to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and onto the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right, these people, right, when they are sent, right, they will revive and they will bring people back to the true teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So every generation will have people, right, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send as Allah's mercy on the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He will send people, right, to bring people back, right, to the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All right, this is what these scholars do, right? So and Imam al-Haddad, and Allah knows best, right? He was one of those, right, who used to really go call people back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, we take from Imam al-Haddad, right, because inshallah, right, if you want to know how to get somewhere, you have to ask those who have gone there. Right? You don't ask from someone who has no idea, right, how to get somewhere if they've not gone there, and they will also lead you astray. They will go astray, and they will lead you astray, and you're all going to be lost eventually. Right? So you go to someone, right, who knows what he's talking about. Right? He's been there, done that. He knows the potholes. Right? He knows all the difficulty in the road. Right? He knows everything, right, about the road. He knows how to get there. Right? They have studied it and they have done it. Right? So and then they write these treaties, right, for us to hold on to, right, to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This treatise was written by Imam al-Haddad because one of his students requested, right, just write for us something that we can hold on to, right, till we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And Imam al-Haddad, of course, he sat down, right, and he began to write. A bit about Imam al-Haddad. Imam al-Haddad, he was born, right, in 1044, right, 1044 Hijrah. Right. Imam al-Haddad, he was born not blind. He was born a normal child. But at the age of 3 or 4, right, his uncle came. And his uncle, he was having a very high fever. And this uncle, right, he was, one of those people who, like, you will say they're in a different, state altogether. Right? He threw, like, hot oil on the boy, this uncle. Right? Threw hot oil on Imam al-Haddad, and that made him blind. Right? So because of his fever and what he was going through, and the hot oil that was thrown on him, right, he became blind. Right? And became blind for the rest of his life. Right? Imam al-Haddad, while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took away the eyesight of Imam al-Haddad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened up for him, right, the inner sight of Imam al-Haddad. Right? And he wrote many books in his life, right, being blind, right, but he wrote many books in his life, right, a lot of which of his books have already been translated into English, into Malay, and into many languages worldwide. Right? So the books of Imam al-Haddad has reached many people, worldwide, because he was a sincere caller to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. During his time, it was it could come to a point whereby people don't know the greatness of Imam al-Haddad, that they would think of him as the old blind man that lives down the street. But he was in fact a great scholar, Imam al-Haddad. He was known that when he was young, he would go, in the age of around 8 or 9, he will go for his lessons in the morning, and out of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing him to study, that morning he would go to one of the mosques, in Tarim, Masjid Ali, or some of the mosques in Tarim, and he would pray 200 rak'ats in some narrations. Some say more, some say less, but he would pray that number of rak'ats to show his gratitude, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing him to study. And from there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increased him in knowledge, and gave him all kinds of openings, into the sciences of Islam, and the ways to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we take from their books, because these people, they are sincere callers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you want to get, and because they wrote all of these things, they didn't get any profit from any of this. Right now it's been made into books, into translations and whatsoever, but these people, when it comes to physical worldly profit, they didn't get anything, because these books became popular even more after they had passed away, so of course their profit comes to them, but in the form of good deeds. So we are how many 100 years after Imam al-Haddad, about 400 years after Imam al-Haddad, and still his books and the du'as that he has taught us, and all of these things that he's left behind, it is still widely spread in this ummah. One thing about Imam al-Haddad was that he was known to take very complicated concepts. If you ever open any book of Imam Ghazali, Imam Ghazali was another one who has written a lot of books. If you open his books, you try to read his books, sometimes you'll find it's hard to understand. The language very hard. It's like the English, the Arabic is actually hard, so the English comes very hard also. The language is very high sometimes, and you're wondering, what is he saying? You don't understand. Imam al-Haddad, what he does is that he takes from Imam Ghazali's books and he makes it easier. So he actually, he simplifies it for us. He takes something, he simplifies. So a lot of people, they can actually just pick up Imam al-Haddad's books and read his books and understand, because he has simplified the language, that Imam Ghazali would take. Alright, so we're going to begin our book, inshallah. I hope. Are there any questions so far?
Not the entire book is Imam al-Haddad. The entire book is not all from Imam al-Ghazali, right?
No, not all his books, but majority, a great percentage of his works are all from Imam Ghazali. A great percentage. It would actually, in fact, some scholars say all. Because in fact, after Imam Ghazali, you see what Imam Ghazali did was that Imam Ghazali, he basically summed up and all that you have to know is Ihya Ulumuddin. Yeah, that's what he did. Basically, that's what he did. All that you have to know about this religion, the hadith, the Quran, everything, he has put it in his Magnus, open Ihya Ulumuddin. It's all there, But the scholars, and when the scholars found Ihya Ulumuddin, they said that there's nothing else for us to write, because he's written everything. He wrote everything in there. There's nothing else for us to do now. But they realized that the Ihya Ulumuddin is not easy on the common person. It's very hard. And the common person, without a teacher, can hardly make through a few pages of the Ihya Ulumuddin, because you're like, Ya Allah, it's too hard. So what the scholars do, especially those of our time and those a bit before us, they take segments from the Ihya Ulumuddin, and they make it bite-sized in a way. They make it easily accepted by the people and understood by the people. That's what they're doing. So I would even say, as going through Imam al-Haddad's books, you would say almost 100% of his books are from the Ihya Ulumuddin. Almost. I won't say all, but almost 100% of his books is all from there. And all of the scholars will say, all that we're saying, Imam Ghazali said it. But what we're doing is that we're just making it bite-sized for you. Easier, to digest, than the Ihya Ulumuddin.
But you mentioned before this, I think I said that on Minhajul Abidin, that is a summary of the
Ihya Ulumuddin.
So this one is
Yes.
Al-Haddad is taken from
Yes.
Minhaj al-Abidin or the other?
From the Ihya al-Ulumuddin. Okay, Minhaj al-Abidin, right, it's also Imam Ghazali's work. Okay, Imam Ghazali himself figured, right, that his Ihya is too heavy. He himself figured it out. Right, towards the end of his life, he figured out that, okay, people are not doing this. It's too much for them. So he says to himself, you know, I'm going to write something that is going to be easier on the people. So he came up with the Minhaj al-Abidin, which is not really a summary, right? But he picks out the main principles, right, in a person's path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not a summary because he has a lot of stuff in there, right? So it's basically main principles. And in parts of that book, he does say, if you want to know more about this, then refer to my Ihya. Right? He keeps doing that. They keep doing that. Right? So that's the Minhaj al-Abidin. It is somewhat like an abridgment also, right? But it's taken from the Ihya. You can see it's taken from Minhaj al-Abidin, right? It follows the same pattern also. It begins with, you know, seeking for forgiveness, right? And you go on to different chapters, right, in this book. It's similar in a way, right? But it's easier. It's an easier text. Right? If you try reading Minhaj al-Abidin, it's translated into Malay and into English also, right? I'm not sure if any of you tried reading it. It can be hard. Right? It can also be hard. Right? You'll be like, Alhamdulillah.
Much simpler than the other volumes of...
Yes, over here it's simpler, but at the same time, Imam Ghazali is known for his language, right? So he has a knack for writing in very good language. So good meaning complicated, right? So it can be it's thinner. I would say it's thinner, right? And he has compartmentalized sections, right? But still his language, if without a teacher, for me personally, also without a teacher, I'll be like, I have no idea what he's saying here.
You can't get the essence of the message he's trying to convey.
Yes, you need a teacher to actually really explain it to you. Right, so Assalamualaikum. Right, so Alhamdulillah. Right, so Alhamdulillah, so we hope this session will be like, you know, not light, but, you know, you can ask your questions as I go along. You don't have to just wait, right, for me to stop or whatsoever. Keep it casual lah. Right, keep it casual. Like, if you all want to come nearer. We all so far, everyone. MashaAllah. Alright, so I'm going to begin the book. Right, I will read the Arabic, right, for the blessings of the Arabic, right, and then I'll go into the English, right, and then we will explain thereafter. Alright. You want to see in front?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. So it's up to you all. It's up to you. If you're thirsty or whatsoever, you can get a drink and everything. Alright, I might be using my board in a while, right, just to illustrate this entire situation. Okay, this book is called Adab Suluk al-Murid, right? And it's called in English Treatise on Discipline in the Path of the Seeker, right? Risala Adab Sulukil Murid, right? It's basically the etiquette that you take in the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And this path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, a lot of it will first and foremost focus on the heart. You always begin with the heart, right? Because before going into Sharia, before going into law, right, you need to actually, you know, go into your aqidah, right, into how much you actually believe in this. And Imam Ghazali himself said, right, that you need to believe in this because, you know, you need to believe in this, not because people tell you so, right, or not because you were born into it, right? That every Muslim must come to a point in their life, right, as a believer, that you believe in this, not because, you know, your parents said so, you know, and not because you were born into it. You know, being born into it, right, for some of us, or your parents bring you up on it, for some of us, right, it's basically, it's like it's being served to you, you know, on a silver platter. But you eating it, right, it has to be your choice. And maybe initially when you were younger, you were being forced to eat it. Right? But there has to come a point in your life whereby you're doing this because you believe truly and deeply in this. Right? That's why we always begin with our aqidah. We always begin with our intentions. We always begin with our desire to know our Creator. And that's why it's called the murid. Right? The murid is from the Arabic word irada. right? Irada, right? Arada yuridu, right? Irada murid, right? If you know a bit of Arabic, right? So let me just write it down, Right, so the word murid is from the Arabic word irada or arada, right? Yuridu. Now, if you know a bit of Arabic, this would mean want. Arada, yuridu, it means to want. Irada. Right, if you've learned the 20 sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you would have learned the word irada. Right, irada is one of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sifat. Right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. Right, He wants. Right, whenever He wills for something, it will happen. Right, the murid is from the same word. Right, it's from here. Right, but the ya is replaced with a mim. Right, murid. And it's actually a Malay word that the Malays have taken, murid. Right, so the word murid comes from the word murid. Right, the one who desires. Right, the one who seeks, the one who wants. Right, that is the murid. And Imam Al-Haddad is going to introduce us right into where he got this title from. It's basically a verse in the Quran. Right, a seeker. Right, what is a seeker? What does a seeker want? Right, what do we want in our lives? Right, so it's a very good book to begin on. Right, because especially for no matter where you are in your life, whether you're a new Muslim, right, or you're an old Muslim, right, old by age and also by number of years in Islam, right, or whether you've studied a lot of books or very few books, right, it's a very good book to start with, right, because it brings you back to your entire purpose, right, of this whole affair of this world, right, your whole life here, right, in this world. So he begins right by saying, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the infinitely merciful, the compassionate. I'll read through first and I'll do my explanation. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ الْعَلِيِّ الْعَظِيمِ. There is neither might nor power except with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, the Magnificent. Right. Then he says, الحمد لله الذي يقذف إذا شاء في قلوب المريدين لوعة الإرادة فيزعجهم إلى سلوك سبيل السعادة التي هي الإيمان والعبادة ومحو كل رسم وعادة وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد سيد أهل السادات وعلى آله وصحبه والسادات القادة أما بعد. Right, so he begins with hamd, right, with praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and salawats unto Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I will explain this part. Right, so he says, all praises and thanks be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who, when he so wishes, casts into the heart of the seekers the anguish of longing, thereby driving them to travel the path towards happiness that is faith and devotion, and the annihilation of all formalities, customs and habits. May Allah send His blessings and peace upon our Master Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the leaders of the members of sovereign authority, and upon his family and companions, who are also masters and their leaders. Right thereafter. Okay, the first part. He begins with basmala, and I'm going to do a full study of a book, so I'm not going to rush, right, and take sessions here and there. We're going to do a proper full study of the book, right? And are we putting a timeline on this? Right, no timeline, Right, so we're going to finish this book when we finish this book, right? So I'm not going to rush it. I'm not going to we have to finish it by the end of the year, right, or whatsoever, because I feel whenever I do that, whenever I'm given a syllabus and a timeline that I have to finish something by a particular period of time, I realize that we tend to leave out stuff. Right? Because you're like, no time. Then you leave out so many things, right? That otherwise that you actually learn when you study this book. You learn all of these things, right? But you can't share them, right? Because people tend to say, hurry up, finish the book. The whole point, and whenever I go through any of my classes, and if you've gone through enough of the classes, right, on Spreaker, you would know I don't like to rush. Right? I will take my time. Right? We took a year doing tafsir of Surah Kahfi. like one full year, weekly classes, Tafsir of Surah Kahfi, right? Because like every week, like a few verses, a few verses, a few verses, right? Surah Yasin also a few verses, and the whole point is not to finish book after book after book, right? That's not the whole point. Allah's not going to ask you on the day of judgment how many books you khatam, right? He's not going to ask you that, right? And we know that He's not going to ask us that. Why is He going to ask us on the day of judgment? He's going to ask us about your deeds. How much of your knowledge that you have studied, you put into practice. That's what He's going to ask us about. Right? Not about how many books you want to you khatam. So that's why it's not a matter of, I need to khatam. It's good to khatam, and there's a lot of blessings in it. But then, how much do you practice? Right? And if you take it slowly, right, it's easier to implement. Right? So you don't take so much in one go, and you're like, Ya Allah, it's too fast, it's too hard, right? It's too much, right, for me to handle in one go. Which is why books like Ihya Ulumuddin, Minhaj al-Abidin, even these books, they are to be studied and not read. Right? Because when you read the Ihya, all you do is read the Ihya. You get nothing. You're supposed to study the Ihya. Right? So when someone once came up to one of my teachers, and said, "Oh, I've read the Book of Assistance." Then he said, "You read the Book of Assistance? How fast do you read the Book of Assistance?" I said, 2 days. Book of Assistance in 2 days. You read the Book of Assistance. Then he said, "You have not read the Book of Assistance." Right? The Book of Assistance takes a long time to actually really, because the whole point is transformation. That's the whole point. Right? It's not that you're here to just hear a book, right, and then go back to your lifestyle. That's not the point. And if that happens to you, then ya khasran. It's a loss. It's a great loss. If that happens to you, go in and out, class after class after class after class, and you're the same person. Right? Nothing has changed. Your prayers have not changed. Right? Your zikr has not changed. Your salawat has not changed. The way you treat your parents has not changed. The way you treat your spouse has not changed. The way you treat your children has not changed. Right? Nothing of it has changed. Then what are you doing? Right? If it's going to be the same, stay at home lah. Right? The whole point of this of studying is transformation. Right? So I'll be doing this class like proper. So we'll take every word and we will go into the word. Right? Every word, not even every sentence, every word. Right? And we will analyze the word. Right? We will pull out lessons from the word. Right? And inshallah, it will bring about transformation in ourselves. And it will bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Usually before every class, I'll start off the class with the students writing down your intentions for this class. For every class, I will do so. Right? But because Imam al-Haddad will bring this in later on, right, so I will do it when Imam al-Haddad brings it in. Right? So because he will mention the hadith of intention, and he will mention the importance of intention later on in the same book, in the first chapter. He's going to mention it. Right? So when we get there, we're going to do the exercise, right? And it's important for us to do this exercise of writing down your intentions, right? Because trust me, whatever you pen down, right, in whatever you are studying, it will come, right? With the sincerity of your intentions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give it to you. There is no doubt, right? And I remember being in Tarim, right? Whenever I learn a new book, I will write down all my intentions, right, for this book. Why am I learning this book? And I will see, one by one, these intentions unfolding. Even if it has nothing to do with the book, right? or you studying in this class. Right? For example, you're very concerned about this particular cousin of yours. And we know we have our family members, our aunties, our cousins, all of us. We have family members whom we are very concerned about for their akhirah. All of us, we have it. You can't deny. Everybody has it, right? Everybody has that part of the family that you know they will never come for classes. You know it. You invite them, they won't come. Right? You call them, they won't come. You send them messages, they won't come. Right? You just know they're not into it. They're not interested. You put it into your intentions. Right? Very strong intentions. Ya Allah. Right? Wherever they are, and you put the name of these people, right? Specific names. Right? Wherever these people are. I have the light or the blessings of this gathering enter them wherever they are. Maybe something in their hearts will begin to move. Right? It will begin to stir. Right? And trust me, as happened to me so many times. Right? You will see them right? They will begin to search for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on their own. You don't have to say anything anymore. And they begin to change themselves. They begin to take their prayers more seriously. They begin to, and the thing about being a believer that's so beautiful is that Islam makes it a fault for us to only care about ourselves. It's actually a fault. To just care about yourselves is a fault in Islam. Right? To not care about the community at large. Right? About all those people who are searching. It's actually a fault. Right? To not call people to goodness is actually a fault. Right? And there are many hadiths that speak about it, and the Quran speaks about it. People who see others sin and they couldn't care less. Right? You're numb towards sin. People who see others not, are performing their religious obligations, and you don't feel an aching in your heart. Why are they like that? Why? I wish they would pray. I want them to pray. Let them save their souls and save my soul. Right? So Islam makes it blameworthy for a person to be able to see this and not feel anything. It's actually blameworthy. Right? And we live in Singapore, we live in Malaysia. Right? We meet all kinds of people, right? Muslim and non-Muslim. Every time you see them, you should have the eye of mercy. Right? And then you should have in your heart the dua. Right? Ya Allah, like spread your guidance to these people. These are good people. Right? We know a lot of them, they are good-hearted people. We know them. Right? But, prayer, fasting, Ramadan is coming up. Right? In Singapore, don't be surprised that a lot of people don't go for Tarawih. Right? You will see the mosque full, right? But that's only a small percentage. Right? Majority of Muslims don't do Tarawih. You can see the statistics. Majority of them don't. I don't think that, everybody Ramadan goes Tarawih. No. Malaysia, I'm sure you all know. You all know in Malaysia, people are not doing Tarawih. They're not. Don't talk about Tarawih. Talk about 5 times a day prayers. This is the 5 prayers. Right? Just that. Right? But we look at them with the eye of mercy. Right? And that, that could be you any day. It really could be you. It's basically from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's bounty that you are where you are. That you are here is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. That you're here. It's not you don't like, it's because of me. No, it's never because of you. Right? And all of these things are favors from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you'll be questioned about. The more favors you are given, the more questions will be on you. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Takathur. At the end of Surah Takathur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and then on that day, لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. Right? There will be questioned about the blessings they were given. And scholars say the greatest of the blessings we are given is our iman. That's the greatest blessing. And what does it mean to be questioned on your iman? Right? The question will be, did you spread this iman? Do you tell others about it? A believer or disbeliever? Because there are plenty of Muslims who do not practice. Plenty, I'm sure. All of us, we know them. There are plenty of them. Right? But are we concerned? Right? Where they are, what they are doing? We have to have this deep, and it starts with deep concern. If you can't speak to them, at least when you learn a book, right, you have very strong intentions. Right? These people, Ya Allah. So inshallah we'll be going into this exercise later on when Imam Al-Haddad speaks about intentions. So the first thing he says here, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And with all significant actions, they always begin with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I'll explain the meaning of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim first, and then the laws behind Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, the ba here, it means the B, the ba. And you always see that it means in the name of Allah or by the name of Allah. The ba here, it means seeking the assistance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means all that I'm doing right now, whenever you begin any action and you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, you are admitting to yourself, I am only able to do this by the barakah, by the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm only able to do this by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm only able to do this by the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 3 things you think to yourself. The blessing, the permission, and the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you don't say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, then you have forgotten Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your actions. That's why Rasulullah said in a hadith, is the first hadith you will see if you learn about Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, whereby he said that every kullu amrin zibal lam yabda fihi bi Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim fahuwa aqta. Right? Every action of significance, right? Every action of significance, if it does not begin with the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, then it is cut off. Right? Cut off from what? Cut off from blessing. Right? Cut off from acceptance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and cut off from benefit, right, onto the person and those around them. Anything of significance. Right? So eating is significant to us. Sleeping is significant to us. Right? Being with the family is significant to us. Whatever is significant to you, you must start off with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And how lucky the person, or how blessed the person, right, who begins every action with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And I know we all know all these things. We know about the greatness of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, but how much of it is in our lives? And that whatever you do, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillah, Bismillah. I know whatever you do, you remember the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you say the Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, you bring to your heart these meanings. That by Allah's help, by Allah's blessing, and by Allah's permission. Right? 3 things you bring to your heart. By His help, His blessing, His permission, I am going to do this. Right? So by the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman, it is Allah's name that shows His immense mercy that envelopes all of creation. Right? That is Ar-Rahman. Right? So Ar-Rahman is a mercy that covers believers and disbelievers. Right? It covers all of the creation, even animals, plants, whatsoever. All of this is under the banner of Ar-Rahman. Right? We say Allah has mercy on disbelievers. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them food and drink. Allah gives them health. All of these things come from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah gives them family and happiness and love. Right? All of these things are sweet things in life that Allah has given to those who worship Him and don't worship Him. And that's where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And it's how the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives. Right, to whomsoever, to all of His creation. And it's the story of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, that once a man came to Nabi Ibrahim and he was a polytheist, right? He was an idol worshipper. And he came to the door of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, and he says to Nabi Ibrahim, right, "Oh Ibrahim, give me some food. Oh Ibrahim, give me some food." Right? And Nabi Ibrahim says to him, "Say la ilaha illallah first. Denounce your idols, right, and believe in Allah, the only God." Then this man says, "No." He says, "No, our friend. No, I will not do that." Right? And he walks off. And Nabi Ibrahim didn't give the man any food. Right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the angel Jibril to Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, reprimanding him, saying, "Oh Ibrahim, this man has been worshipping his idol for how many years? And I never once denied him of his rizqi. I never once denied him of his food. Right? He has not been serving me, he's not been worshipping me, worshipping his idols. But the entire time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still gave him his food. So who are you to deny someone who refuses to say La ilaha illallah?" Right? So Allah reprimanded Nabi Ibrahim for what he did, and said, "Go to the man now and give him food." Right? Go. Right? So Nabi Ibrahim, he runs to the man, he goes to looks for the man, right, with food. Right? And he comes to the man and he says, "Here, this food is for you." Right? And the man says, "Why are you giving me food now? I've not denounced my idol. I'm still worshipping my idol." Right? And then the man, Nabi Ibrahim says, "Yes, I know, but my Lord reprimanded me on your account." Right? He said that you have been worshipping your idols for how many years, and He has been giving you food all the entire time. And how can me, a human being, right, just one time and I refuse you food? He told me to give you food. And of course, the man at this point, he says, "La ilaha illallah." Right? He says there's no God but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because he realizes, right, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been gracious, right, onto him by giving him rizqi all this while. So that is Ar-Rahman. Right? So Ar-Rahman, it is a mercy that encompasses all. Right? There is a hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that when Allah created the creation and Allah created mercy, Right? Allah created mercy in 100 parts. Right? In these 100 parts, only one part Allah sent down to this earth. Right? So in this hadith goes, so all the mercies that we see from the beginning of time to the day of judgment is all from this one part of mercy. Now, can you imagine that? Nabi Adam's time. And every mercy, meaning between every mother and child, even the hadith says, when a goat lifts its leg for its child to come in and suckle, it's a form of mercy that animals have. So animals also have mercy. If you all watch enough YouTube, right, you will find I've seen before when I was in university. I was doing this article on ethics, right, and saying what is ethics. I did an entire research, right, on ethics, right, and you see that that for human beings, right, we only tend to be ethical, so called, right, to things that have faces and expressions. Right, it happens to us. Like for example, we have no mercy on insects. They have no face, no expression. Reptiles, you don't tend to have mercy on them, even if they're not harmful. Like for example, like turtle, right, that kind of thing. Mammals, we have more mercy on, because mammals tend to show expression. I was like a thesis lah. I was like really thinking about it. It's interesting lah. You go into it, and then the more something is unable to express its emotions, the less mercy we tend to have for it. It's true, right? If there's a face to it, you have mercy. Like you see very clearly, a very clear example, a child in the womb and the child outside the womb, right? Some people with the story of abortion, they won't flinch because there's no face, right? To them, abortion, no face to it. But if they're killing a child that's newborn, they'll be like, how could you do that? And because why? There's a face. There's a face to the child. Right? So plenty of people do abortion. Right? And even women who do abortion, because they don't see the child. They don't see it. But when she comes out, now you see the face. And it is barbaric. You can't do that. But it's the same thing. Right? Isn't it? Both situations, you're killing a child. Same thing. Right? But one you see the face, and one you don't see the face. Correct? Right? So then you tend to have mercy on what has faces. Right? And they not have mercy on what has no face. And that's why now, like subhanAllah, what's going on in the world, right? It's all the not seeing the face. When you see the faces, you begin to have emotions come out of you. Right? So anyway, going back to this hadith, right? This mercy, this one part. Because I was talking about my research, because when it comes to animals seem to perceive mercy better than human beings. Animals. If you look more, if you go already and you research and go into it, you will see that Sayyidina Muhammad, even for predators, they can have mercy on their prey. You will see that if they are full. It means they only kill for the sake of eating. Of course, there are those who don't, right? But most of them kill only for the sake of eating, right? So, and then you have documentaries, right, of wild animals that look after the child, right, or the baby of their prey. You see that, right? Because they perceive something, right? Allah placed mercy in the heart of this wild beast, right? It's supposed to be a predator, right? Allah put mercy in the heart, right? And Allahu Alam what that is. But that is from the Rahman of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is Ar-Rahman, it's from His Rahmah. From the Rahmah of Allah subhanahu, that for that one part. And that one part, how many thousands of years has passed by, is still that one part. So all the mercy that was in the heart of the prophets, right? The mercy that was in the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is immense. Right? The mercy between every mother and child, which is immense. The mercy between every mother animal and the baby animal, which you see in nature, immense. All of that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, one part. all from one part of His mercy. And He has reserved 99 parts of His mercy to be manifested on the Day of Judgment. And that is Ar-Rahman. And on the Day of Judgment, He will manifest His 99 parts. And the ulama say, this 199 parts thing is just for us to be able to grasp something of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. But His mercy is not limited to these numbers. So it's not 99 parts. But it's just an analogy for us to be able to grasp it. Because you can't even grasp the one part. Right? How much is that? That one part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. And subhanAllah, so you see, as we go through this book, right, you will see, subhanAllah, how the great Imam, right, in beginning in this way, will pull people closer towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we always begin with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. That is the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala began. Right, the Quran. The Quran begins with what? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Rasulullah, every single letter that he wrote to send out, that he dictated for it to be written, to be sent out to every king during his time, all of them began with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Two names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that are emphasized. Right, so who dares go around saying, right, that the God of Islam is cruel, or the God of Islam is unforgiving, or the God of Islam is all these blasphemous things to say about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Allah Himself begins with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. He Himself introduces Himself to us in the Quran with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim again. Right, that is introduction to Himself, in the Quran. And who is the one, behind this book? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whenever you open any book, you will find, right, the author of the book. What about the author? And Allah tells us all about Himself in Surah Al-Fatiha. Right, so the one who's speaking in His book, all you want to know about Him is in Surah Al-Fatiha. That's what you have to know about Him. He's Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, 2 times round. I mean, in a hadith, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the heavens and the earth, His mercy, He wrote in a book that is with Him on the throne, right? He wrote there that for surely my mercy overtakes my wrath. Right? And we believe in that. And on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to say, Ya Allah, right, you said your mercy overtakes your wrath. Right? Show us your mercy. Right? Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ar-Rahim, right, is the other name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's also from the word Rahmah, right, from the word mercy. And this mercy, the scholars say, it is specific to believers. Ar-Rahman is spread through all of Allah's creation, right? And Ar-Rahim is specific to believers, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives believers their iman, and He subhanahu wa ta'ala increases them in their iman. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases you in your prayer, in your salawat, in your knowledge, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases you in your good deeds, or even in your love for those of goodness, people of goodness, people of virtue. Then Allah does these things to your heart, or Allah removes from you, any form of pain that you might be going through. It's all from the name Rahim, right? It is a specific mercy, right? And scholars say that this Ar-Rahim is what will manifest on the Day of Judgment. On the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show mercy to believers, and not to disbelievers. This is our Aqidah. Our Aqidah is that if someone comes on the Day of Judgment having disbelief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our Aqidah is that, right, they are not basically candidates, right, to receive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. And Allah does whatever He wants to do. Right? No one can dictate for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the Aqidah of what we have understood, right, is that, right, if someone has to come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he is open, right, to receive the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's only by Allah's mercy that we are forgiven and placed in paradise. Right? And that is why whenever we do our wudu, we will ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for hisaban yasira. Right? Ya Allah, give us an easy reckoning. And an easy reckoning is basically, Rasulullah said to Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha, "O Aisha, whoever is questioned on the Day of Judgment will be punished." Means whoever is questioned will be punished. Then Sayyidina Aisha said, "But then, then what does it mean Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says an easy reckoning, an easy hisab, an easy reckoning? And the Rasulullah says that what that means is that Allah will show you your deeds and then He will say forgiven. Right? No question. He's not going to ask you or discuss or question. He's going to show it to you and say forgiven. The moment He begins to ask you, from the hadith, the moment He begins to ask you questions about what do you do on this particular day, at this particular time, why do you do that, right? For what reason, for this, for that, whatever. The moment He begins to interrogate you, it's not a good sign, right? Because there's no way out. Right? Because what can you answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He knows everything. And what possible excuse could you give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if He wants to begin to question you? Something that you can give. Right? So the hisaban yasira, an easy reckoning, is when Allah shows His mercy onto you and He shows you your deeds and then He says, wiped out. Right? Forgiven, enter into paradise by my mercy. And subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So no believer should ever neglect the basmala in any of his actions. You should never neglect the Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Right? Every single thing you do of significance. I begin with the Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Of course, you have written it on your whiteboard, in your book, right on top. Right? If you're not used to writing Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, practice, train yourself to write the Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim right in your books. Right? Especially when you write notes, right? Write Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Right? I'm thinking I should go into the laws of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim or not. Right? Because you do learn about laws of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, right? Whereby it is, it's wajib to mention Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim in your prayer. Right? It is sunnah most of the time. It's sunnah mu'akkada for actions that are mu'akkada. Right? So actions that are emphasized, it is the Siddha Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is emphasized. Right? It is permissible to say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim for actions of no significance. Right? So, like for example, someone takes a piece of paper and begins to tear up the paper for no reason. Right? It's not significant. It's not an action that is significant. And she says Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Right? She gets no reward. There's no reward in doing that because your action is not significant. You're doing something mindless. Right? So doing mindless things and saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, there is no reward for it. So if let's say for example it's Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I move around my pen and I say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, there is no reward. Don't think everything gets reward. No. Right? Doing something mindless, right? There's no significance, you get no reward. Right? Because you're just doing something that is mindless. Right? And then doing something that is makro and saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim to do so, it is makro to say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Right? So like for example, you want to basically, it's makro to pluck white hair. To pluck it, it's makro. Right? So you see a white hair and you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim and you pluck. So you get two makro. Right? Makro of plucking the hair and makro of saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, plucking the hair. And of course, it is haram to say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim when you are doing something haram. Because you are making a mockery of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name. Because Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim means by His permission, by His blessing, and by His help. So if someone, wants to steal, and Bismillah, right, and then they steal, right, they get double the punishment. Because you are mocking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name. You don't do something against Allah's commandment and then say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. You don't do that. Right? So and instead the ulama say, if you walk out of your house and you say Bismillahi tawakkaltu ala Allah wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So you're leaving your house saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. You think to yourself, how can I thereafter do anything in my path that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates? Because I left my house by His name and by His blessing and by His permission. How dare I, in leaving my house, go and meet someone, and commit sins. I go to a place and commit sins. I go to someone's house and begin to backbite. Right? I left my house by Allah's name and His permission, right, and His blessings. How dare we go out, say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and we commit all kinds of sins out there? And subhanallah, and it makes you think. Right? So if someone is always on the basmala, right, it actually protects them from sins. Because you're going to say Bismillah every single time you're going to say it, you're going to do something, then how can you sin? And the scholars say, if you are someone who has a big issue with leaving gossip. Means you're like, always gossiping. Right? Especially you know certain people in your life, if you sit with them, for sure you will start to gossip. Because you have the same enemies. Right? Or you have the same people you dislike. Right? So you know the moment you sit down with them, the very people you don't like will be the topic of your conversation. Right? Confirm. You know for sure that will happen. Right? To protect yourself, the scholars say, that when you sit down, you say Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Just basmala and salawat when you are sitting down. Right? And then it will remind you that you sat down in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by His blessings, permission and His help. And then you send peace and blessings to Rasulullah alaihi wasallam. So your tongue just, said the blessed salawat on Rasulullah alaihi wasallam. So now, being seated, you cannot use that same tongue, right, to go and backbite someone else, right, or slander someone else, or lie about someone else. Right? You can't do that. Right? That doesn't make sense. Right? Subhanallah, it doesn't make sense. And it works. Right? I've been trying it. It works. Right? So you find it and especially you know who are the people who will backbite with you. You know it. You know who exactly they are. It could be your own family members, right? Your own mother, your own sister, your own, it could very well be, your own close friend, or, you sit with them when they sit, they'll talk about the neighbor, talk about this, talk about that, talk about don't know who, right? And you know it will happen. You know it. And you know it's a sin. You are not to speak about other people in a bad light. Right? You know it. So every time you sit down, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa Sayyidina Muhammad. If you want, the whole time you sit down, continue your salawats. Right? So that your tongue, if you have to stop doing your salawats, you must think, I'm stopping salawat to say what? Right? So you're going to control your tongue. Right? It helps you in controlling your tongue. Right? Then he goes into the alhamdulillah, he goes into la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim, to remind himself that there is no might and no power except with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he's about to write a book. To remind himself, this book is only by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he gives alhamdulillah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gives hamd to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way that scholars always do. Scholars, they have this thing that they always do. Whenever they begin books, right, they will praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way whereby it will be in direct relation to what they are about to speak about. And they have this thing that they do. And so the alhamdulillah is not always alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. No. They will phrase the hamd, the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in respect to the subject at hand. Right? So for example, there's a book about time management, right, by Sheikh Al-Fatah Buhuda, one of my favorite books. Right? And the Shaykh begins by saying, all praises be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has taught us the management of time by giving us the 5 times a day prayer. Right? He gave us the 5 prayers, not in a way whereby, pray whenever you want to pray. No. Allah put them in specific timings to teach us to compartmentalize your day. Right? Human beings, you must compartmentalize your day. You can't go through the whole day as a 24-hour block. You can't. You need to know morning, afternoon, evening, night, later night, right? Morning, late morning, that kind of thing. And for most of us, we do that before subuh, after subuh, right? Before duha, after duha, before zuhur, after zuhur, right? Before asar, after asar. We arrange our day according to our prayer timings. And most Muslims actually do that. You actually arrange your day according to your prayer timings, and that is from the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah taught us how to time manage. Right? Management of time is important in the life of a human being. Right? So the Shaykh began, right, in his book on time management. It's an excellent book. It's actually been translated in the English. Right? I can't remember what's it called in English. I think the Virtues of Time, or I can't remember what it's called. But Shaykh Al-Fatah Buhuda. Right? If I remember the translation in English, I'll tell you to you. But I forgot what it's called in English. But basically, the value of time. Right, it's called The Value of Time by Shaykh Al-Fatah Buhuda. Right, so he begins it by saying, all praise to the one who taught us, right, how to compartmentalize our time or manage our time by the 5 prayers. right? And then, and usually they will go into the slawats also, and they will link the slawat also to the topic at hand. Here he did not, but for most books, they will do so, right? So you see, like, in the book on children, right? So in Radu Sibyan, right, it's a book on raising children, right? The Shaykh begins by giving praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who enables people to do goodness. So he begins that in the book in that way, to tell parents that you do your best in bringing up your children, but it's not about how they turn out, it's not on you. Because Allah enables people to do goodness, and people choose what they want to choose. So you do your part, but how they turn out, right, it's not on you for as long as you have done your part. Because there are plenty of righteous people who had, horrid children. Plenty. And the other way around also. Plenty of horrid people have righteous children. Right? So on us is what? The responsibility. That is what is on you. But the result, Allah knows. Right? So he begins the hamd in that way. Praise is the one who actually inspires in people goodness. Right? To remind, it's not in your hands. You're going to try your best, but it's not in your hands. And it will never be in your hands. You just try your best. That's all it is. And Allah will determine. Right? So here he begins by saying, all praises and thanks belongs to Allah, who, when He so wishes, casts into the hearts of the seekers the anguish of longing to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thereby driving them to travel the path towards happiness. And happiness meaning true happiness. See how he begins? So he praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because He is the one, see the word irada? Right? He placed in our hearts this irada, this desire, this want. He has made you into a murid, right? Someone who is desirous. So you praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for putting it into your heart. He broke you from your lull, right? From your day in, day out, go to work, come back, go to work, come back, go to work, come back. And plenty of people are there. And they never stop what they're doing. They don't have this disturbance in their heart. No, I have to know more. I have to get closer. My prayer is no good. I need to concentrate more. I need to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more. I feel so lacking. Who puts all that anguish, right, and unsettlement in the heart? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are people and we know of them, who are content. Right? They pray 5 times a day and they're content. They don't want any more than this. All they want is to pray 5 times a day. That's all they want. And that's fine. Right? They're doing their obligation. Right? But that's all they want. They don't want any more than that. But there are people that Allah put in their hearts. It's not enough. I need to improve my prayer. I don't like the way my prayer is. I don't like where I'm at when it comes to my iman. I don't like it. I need to find my way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better. I find myself reading the Quran. I'm not connecting. Right? I'm not feeling it. Right? This anguish that you feel in your heart, or this unsettlement, or this frustration with the self, that is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? It is a driving force to snap you out. Some people, they don't have it. Right? They can't snap out. Right? But to snap you out of, you can't be like this how many years of your life? Day in and day out. 20, 30 years, you're the same. You can't be that way. Right? Your prayer 10 years ago and your prayer now should not be the same. If it's the same, what have we been doing? If it's the same prayer, right? And if it's the same, then alhamdulillah, let's improve it. Right? We can't. The scholars say every single Ramadan, check your salat. Every single Ramadan, right? A full year has passed. How's your prayer? Is it the same since last year? Same until now, right? May Allah help us, right? Allah really help us focus in our prayer, taste our prayer, and experience our Quran. Again, also they will say, the scholars will say, every Ramadan is your checkpoint. It's a time whereby you take a step back from your dunya and you look at your akhirah. And what is the state of your akhirah? Every year you're taking a step towards your death, right? Towards your grave. Every year, right? Every day, in fact, of course, but every year to show, the progress. One more step, one more step, one more step. Right? Are we getting better as believers? Right? So you see, all this anguish in the heart is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gives this to us. This contentment with the self. And that's how Islam is all about. You are to always be not contented with yourself. You cannot once be content. Oh, I think I did a good job praying. That should never come to your mind, ever. Right? After every prayer, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. And you should say to yourself, focus more next time. Focus more. Focus more. Come on. Right? Focus on the meanings. Right? Get your heart in there. Come on. You should lecture yourself after every prayer. You shouldn't be going like, there was a well done tarawih. Especially, you should never say that to yourself. Because that shows arrogance and that shows contentment. And the one who was content, that was shaitan. That was Iblis. He was content. He was proud of his ibadah. The believer is never proud of his ibadah. What time should I stop? Am I supposed to stop soon?
So Maghrib is at 7:40, is it?
No, 7:20.
7:21, I think is Maghrib.
7:21,
Yeah,
right.
I'm sure they want to stop for. It's up to you.
Do you want to pause before Maghrib?
Excuse me, I have to go.
Okay, alright.
I'm so sorry, I got a dinner. Birthday dinner, my daughter.
Oh, mashallah.
I honestly enjoy your talk
Oh,
so much.
mashallah. Jazakumullah.
It's recorded?
Yes, it is. I think unless you take wudu and pause here.
Yeah,
Right, prepare for
Such good reminders.
mashallah.
Everyday reminders that we forget.
Ya, subhanallah. Jazakumullah. Yeah, we can prepare for Maghrib, Okay, we'll stop here, then we continue after Maghrib. Right? Okay, so Allah ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Fatiha. Anna rizqana manafi' mal khalis ta'lim wa dalal al-huda wa yusr al-qalam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa arwahi mu'animina mashayikhina wa zabil haqqi alayna wa ila hadratin nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Al-Fatiha. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر.